What's up, ladies and gents, and welcome to yet another review in the Summer of Slash series here on the Videocast channel here on YouTube. Hope you guys are enjoying what I've done so far. So far, I have done the great, that is down here, I can't even think of the title right now. But it's When a Stranger Calls. Sorry about that. And so today I decided to go on and do another 1970s slasher movie that came out in the wake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Black Christmas. That is 1976's The Town That Dreaded Sundown, and this movie actually celebrates its 40th anniversary this year. So happy birthday to The Town That Dreaded Sundown. But this film was directed by the great Charles B. Pierce, who directed the classic 1970s Bigfoot picture, The Legend of Boggy Creek, which is considered by many to be either a horror classic or a so bad it's good classic. I think it's a little bit of both. It's definitely, I think, his most enjoyable, and sort of maybe even his best film. And Charles B. Pierce is a director who is known for his directing style of being much more in the style of a documentary than just a regular film. And The Town That Dreaded Sundown is nothing, it's no kind of exception. This is a movie that is heavily reliant on the documentary style that Charles B. Pierce has become famous for among horror fans. He uses the same style that he used for The Legend of Boggy Creek and would in the future with other films, namely Boggy Creek's sequel. But The Town That Dreaded Sundown is perhaps a more polished film than The Legend of Boggy Creek, in that it's a little bit more cinematic. The cinematography is certainly a little bit better. The acting is about equal. There's not very good acting in the movie, and whereas the story and generally the dialogue, for the most part, are well written, there are aspects that sort of, I suppose, suffer because of the way that Pierce directed his films. For the most part, he hired local talent and didn't really go out for bigger stars. And that's sort of, I think, the big problem with The Town That Dreaded Sundown. The Town That Dreaded Sundown is a movie that is based on an actual case that came up in the late 40s, early 50s. One of the first serial killer cases to come out of the United States. Definitely one of the first that was more high profile and shown in the media. But The Town That Dreaded Sundown does take more than a few liberties with the story. For instance, there are certain kills that didn't actually happen in real life. Names have been changed, of course, and there's a lot of added comedy in with Charles B. Pierce's own character of Sparkplug, who is actually rather enjoyable, but can be a bit frustrating occasionally because he seems to be sort of shoehorned in there, and sometimes the movie can suffer tonally because of his shoehorning in there. But he's definitely fun for certain things. I'm thinking in particular of a moment where he's actually dressed in drag for a stakeout, and one of his fellow police officers tries to feel up his fake boob and talks about how it's lopsided and everything like that. It's a great scene, and you actually should watch the movie, I think, even just for that. But it's also filled with really great kills. The special effects are minimalist and done in that 1970s quick but violent and nasty style that kills were done back in those days. Very similar to gangster movies of that era. But yeah, The Town That Dreaded Sundown also, I guess, suffers from the fact that I don't think that the writer of this film, whose name I can't remember right now, for some reason it is not even listed on the back here. But in any case, the writer definitely doesn't really have a beat on how teenagers talk. The teenage dialogue here is awful, and all the teenage actors are pretty much awful. There's a kill that's rather famous involving a trombone and a knife, which sounds ridiculous, and it actually is well played out. It's actually a pretty well thought out and executed kill, but the thing that really makes it suffer, I think, is the actress who's getting killed. She's just her screams just don't sound real at all. Nothing that she's doing seems real. But for the most part, the movie has a sort of sense of menace to it. There's definitely a menacing, I guess, undertone to the movie. Not really even undertone. Just the tone in general is very menacing. There's a lot of there are a lot of shots of the swamp that look absolutely horrifying in context, but also rather beautifully shot. And the killer is absolutely horrifying. He's a very, very scary slasher killer. The only thing that I think really sets him apart from other killers in terms of, I don't know, maybe unslasherness would be the fact that he actually uses a gun. Most slashers don't actually use a gun unless you're going into the Scream series, and they only use a gun in the last 10-15 minutes of the movie anyway. But, yeah, The Town That Dreaded Sundown sports a very, very creepy killer. Not very good acting among the teenagers, but there are some good moments of acting as well. I think the character of Captain Morales from the Texas Rangers, I think he's very well portrayed here. Most of the adult characters are really well acted. Charles B. Pierce himself isn't a bad actor, it's just that his character can be annoying at times and seems shoehorned in. But overall, I think it's pretty good as far as that's concerned for a Charles B. Pierce film. And by the way, if you want to check out other Charles B. Pierce films, there is one other on this disc, if you can pick up this Scream Factory edition, which is rather good. It also comes with The Evictors, which is shown here on the back. The Evictors doesn't really have any special features with it or anything, but the film itself is actually, I think, Charles B. Pierce's most cinematic movie, and perhaps one of his most harrowing and dark features. So you should definitely give a look to this Blu-ray just to see if you can see The Evictors. It could be a movie that I could possibly review in the future, and it could maybe even fit into the area of a slasher film, but I don't know. I don't know if it would exactly fit 100% in. All that I can say is that this is a good Blu-ray edition, so definitely check it out. And in general, this is a good movie. I think that it's enjoyable to watch. I definitely had a blast watching it one more time. It can be slow in places, but overall it is pretty consistently entertaining. A little tonally unbalanced, but it has some fantastic direction. I really, really love the cinematography here. All the camera work is good. Most of the kills are really executed. The killer is very, very creepy, and I think it'll stay with you once you watch it. And the final shot of the movie is on the killer's feet, walking along the sidewalk. Because they never caught the killer in real life, they never caught the killer in the film. So it is still a case that is unsolved. So it sort of does a good job of leaving you creeped out and wanting to hear more about this particular case. And the case of the Moonlight Murders in Texarkana is a very fascinating one. If you can give it a check out, I would definitely recommend you research it a little bit. It's very interesting. But yes, Town That Dreaded Sundown, not a bad slasher movie. Doesn't fit 100% into the slasher mold. As I said, the killer uses a gun. Most of the movie is spent trying to catch the killer as opposed to showing the killer actually killing people. There's not a lot of emotional impact with the kills because there's not a lot of time spent with the teenagers. But they're still harrowing, they're still creepy, and even that ridiculous trombone scene somehow, in context, is rather creepy if you watch it the right way. But yeah, definitely watch this sometime. It's great to watch after dark, on a rainy day perhaps. But yeah, Town That Dread Sundown, I would give it a good solid 3.5 out of 5 stars. Very good movie for a slasher movie of its era. And that'll be it for The Town That Dreaded Sundown. As for what I'm going to be doing in the future with reviews, I'm not exactly sure which I'll do next, but I'm thinking perhaps another 70s slasher, or maybe I'll tiptoe into the 80s with something from the early 80s, like from 1980 or afterwards. Actually, I'm looking down at my bookshelf right now, and I'm seeing a couple ones that I think I'm in the mood to watch and would actually be really good to give a try to, for as far as reviewing is concerned. So, what I would like you guys to do is, if you guys get to watch this video, I want you to let me know, which would you guys prefer that I review? Would you prefer that I review Tourist Trap from 1979, which is very similar to the 2005 version of House of Wax? Very much so. I think House of Wax is more a remake of this than the 1950s film with Vincent Price. But that, or would you prefer me to watch the Jamie Lee Curtis vehicle Terror Train, which sports a very interesting killer with some interesting kills, set, I believe, on New Year's Eve, but I'm not sure if, I don't know. I wouldn't probably review it on New Year's Eve anyway, so may as well go ahead and give it a try for Summer of Slash. But, yes, if you guys watch the video, I'd like to get a few people to vote here. Which would you prefer? Tourist Trap or Terror Train? I'm up for either one of them, and they're both sitting right here in my tease section of my film collection, so. Well, guys, thank you very much for all you've done, watching my videos and subscribing. Thank you to my 2 new subscribers, Zach and Anna. I really appreciate it. Rock on. If you like, subscribe. I'll talk to you later. Bye.